Gas prices are still going down. How low will they go? Dawn sips coffee with a TV star who searches the world for the best beans. And I rip local snow coverage in my commentary. That's all coming up on Another Thing.
Now, anyone who's filled up their gas tank lately knows that the price at the pump is plummeting. The average cost of a gallon of gas in the U.S. is about $2, and in some parts of the country, it's as low as about $1.60. Wow. And that means we all have a lot more money in our wallets.
I love it because I have a big car, obviously, so when it's $33 to fill my tank, it's amazing, because usually it's $60. So it's great.
That's a huge difference.
It's a huge difference, and it's a lot better for my bank account.
Instead of $50, $40, it's coming down to like almost $20 to fill up. That's beautiful. I love it. Keep it happening. I'll see y'all later.
You will be seeing these prices now and later. Dr. Ben Liebman is the head of the economics department at St. Joseph's University. He says there's been an explosion of domestic oil production, especially in North Dakota and Texas.
And they are just churning out a lot of oil. And so this has meant that we now produce a good deal more than we used to even a few years ago. I would say that our production has jumped up from about 5 or 6 million barrels a day to about 9 million barrels a day just in the span of 4 or 5 years. So this has meant that there's a lot more oil on the market, and it's just driving the price down.
Unlike past years, Saudi Arabia hasn't cut back on producing oil to keep prices high, in part, Liebman says, to punish Iran.
So this is a huge hardship for them, and that may be another reason why Saudi Arabia is allowing the price to stay low, because of the tension and the conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So this is going to pinch Iran, and that may be in the interest of Saudi Arabia.
So Dr. Liebman and many other experts expect these low gas prices to hang around for at least a year, maybe even 2 years. So you can bet that this will be a major theme during the upcoming presidential election. Reporting for Another Thing, I'm Ellen Kolodziej.
All right, thank you, Ellen. And now joining us to talk more about this is Tracy Noble, who is the manager of public and governmental relations for AAA. Tracy, thanks for joining us. And also Ben Brockwell, who is the director of Oil Price Information Service. Let's get to the top question, the question that everybody wants to know. How low are these prices going to go?
Well, we are not expecting prices to rise anytime soon, and we've seen prices drop for the last 170 days, I believe. So we're expecting prices to have a national average below $2 a gallon by the end of the month.
I think the market is awfully close to that. I think the only thing I would point out is that if you look at spring gasoline prices, and our business tends to look at the market today and the market 6 months down the road, summer gasoline price is already trading about 25 cents a gallon higher than where we are right now. We expect prices to rise later on in the spring, but don't expect prices to continue to rise during the summer. I think there's a limited upside to prices. I don't think you'll stay near the $2 mark, but I don't think you're going to go back to $3. And I think we're in for a couple of years of what consumers would consider great prices relative to where they were 3 or 4 years ago.
So when is the dip going to be? If we're following gas prices, it's going to go down to a certain point. That will happen when? About?
That's happening right now. So what we're seeing is prices still declining, and we are expecting them for a national average to get below the $2 a gallon mark. But then once we come into the spring and the switch over for the summer blend fuels, prices could jump another 30 to 50 cents, but we're not going to be anywhere near that $3 mark that we had throughout 2014.
But when it jumps back up, people are still going to complain. It's going to be what's happening all of a sudden.
I think there's going to be a suspicion that's because of the summer driving season. It's Memorial Day, prices rise. That's typically
They're unfounded, those suspicions are unfounded?
I think the most interesting question I get from, people know what I do and I'm an expert in the field is, these prices aren't going to stay there, are they, Ben? They're not going to stay where they are now. And my answer is, they're going to stay lower than you would expect for a longer period of time. We have had a systemic change in this business in terms of the growth and supply, and it's happened across the globe. And meanwhile, oil demand, because the hydrocarbon molecule is under attack from global warming, demand is kind of calmed down and is receding, at least in the U.S.
So let's stay on that point. Give me all the factors that lead into these prices coming down. Or let's start with the main one.
Well, the main
competition?
Well, there's competition. The price of crude oil is below $50 a barrel, which this time last year it was at, I believe, $98 per barrel. So just that factor alone has driven the prices down at the pump. And as a result, consumers are very happy with that result.
Yeah, I actually want to take another step back from that. I get that the barrel prices are down, but all the factors that are driving that.
Larry, the main reason, and it is the U.S. shale revolution. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, the U.S. was producing 5 million barrels a day of crude oil. We are now producing on a consistent basis over 9 million barrels a day of crude oil. That 4 million barrels a day has displaced supplies from the Middle East and Africa. And on November 28th, the linchpin of this market declining, on November 28th, when OPEC met, Saudi Arabia said, look, we've invested too much money bringing oil to the market to supply the world when it needs it. We're not going to sacrifice that market share and cut production to protect the price. Somebody else needs to take that. Basically, what the Saudis did was declare war on the U.S. production, and for the last month, most of this price decline since August has occurred really since November 28th, the biggest chunk of it. And until somebody blinks,
right.
Until somebody blinks, either the U.S. producers because they can't afford these to continue to produce at these low numbers, or the Saudis because they can only finance oil at $50 with their budget surplus for 5 years. Until somebody blinks, this market's not going anywhere.
Let me before we get to the governmental stuff and the political stuff, I do want to ask you, Tracy, about we've now taken the next month and we've talked about the summer and it going up. Is there, and I know I'm asking you to look into a crystal ball, and I'll admit up front it's unfair. But is there a time, are we seeing this constantly going down to the point where we could do you see 99 cents?
No, I don't think we're going to ever reach that
Ever?
point again.
Ever's a long time.
It's hard to say. I don't foresee that happening within the next year, within the next 6 months. I don't foresee us seeing 99-cent gas.
And I also want to ask you a different question about this area. You're talking about national averages, and we're above the national averages usually in this area. No? Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York?
Pennsylvania is.
New Jersey, but not Pennsylvania, New York, but not New Jersey.
New Jersey today, for example, is $1.94 per gallon, so 10 cents below the national average of $2.04. So we typically see
New Jersey,
lower prices.
but Pennsylvania is still higher, New York still higher. Do you have the numbers for them by any chance? Okay, but we can tell they're higher. And
they're higher because of taxes. I can tell you Pennsylvania retail prices are 30 or 40 cents higher than New Jersey, but it's all a function of taxes. On January 1st, the state of Pennsylvania raised their state gasoline tax to 50 cents a gallon. Mm-hmm. 50 cents a gallon. It's one of the biggest state taxes on gasolines in the country, if not the biggest.
No, I know. I remember when that happened. I think the governor may have lost re-election because of that happening too in Pennsylvania.
And New Jersey still has the second lowest gas tax in the nation.
And they pump the gas for you. It's a deal you can't beat in New Jersey. I want to get into a little bit to the politics of this, because when the gas prices were higher, everybody was talking about them. Now that they're lower, nobody is talking about them. And we've got a couple of major things happening, the Keystone Pipeline and also fracking. All around the country is an issue that is debated on both sides. Do either of those issues have any type of long-term effect on what we're talking about now?
No, well, I think obviously the fracking technology has been, and the ability to get to the tight oil supplies, tight structural oil supplies, has been the major factor in increasing U.S. oil supplies, which has been the major factor at the end of the day for prices declining. It is the U.S. shale revolution that has caused this price collapse as production has gone up. You know, the Keystone Pipeline.
Let me stop you for 1 second on that. So when Governor Cuomo in New York says no more fracking, and if other governors were to say no more fracking, does that affect gas prices in the long range?
Oh, I think it would, absolutely. And there's a possibility that in the long run, with prices, if crude oil prices continue to be depressed, you won't see the current production shut in, because it's hard to, the difference between conventional oil and the shale oil is it's harder to shut these shale oil projects in because it's harder to start it back up. But what you will see is them not going after new fields and new production. And that's when you're going to have a backlash 3 or 4 years from now or 5 years from now. The cycle is going to turn the other way. There's going to be less crude because you can't frack, and you're going to have demand rising, and you're going to go back to
I see you nodding your head the entire time. You agree completely with
I
it?
do. I agree, because I mean it's very cyclical. If you've seen where we were several years ago, we had lower prices than the demand.
Yeah, this is beyond cyclical, though, right? I mean, this gets into the politics of fracking, and
yes.
the politics. I would imagine that's the unknown in all of this. That you never know. We'll continue to talk about gas prices and the economy and the government and all of that when we come back in one moment. We're going to talk to a Monmouth University professor of economics, Tracy Noble from AAA. Thank you very much, and also Ben Brockwell. I appreciate you being here. It was a fascinating conversation. We're going to continue with another thing in just a moment.